But I want to start with what appears to be a 5-alarm fire for Governor Ron DeSantis, not to mention the rest of the GOP field, anyone not named Trump. Wall Street Journal poll coming out, released over the weekend, shows that Trump is the top choice for nearly 60% of Republican voters. He's got 59% of their support. 59% of them support Trump. 13% supporting DeSantis. 13. Trump is up 11 points since April. DeSantis went from 24% to 13% in that same time frame. He's hemorrhaging the numbers, and Trump is dominating in the numbers. And I ask you whether this is this surmountable? Because DeSantis' own super PAC was in the news. The guy who runs it, Jeff Rowe, the strategist, speaking to rich donors, a few days ago, a week ago even, saying, it's time. It's go time. We need $50 million and we need it right now, or he's going to lose. And that the Republican Party is going to lose the general election if Trump's the nominee. Again, this is DeSantis' guy, but he went through the states saying Biden's going to beat Donald Trump in these critical swing states. And DeSantis needs this money immediately, $5 million a month just to sustain Iowa. And we need it within the next 60 days because he needs to beat Donald Trump in that time frame in 2 months. And he needs to separate from his other rivals right now. So let's start with that, Emily, on the state of the race for DeSantis and Trump on the GOP side.
Yeah, it's really interesting because in campaign world, the number one thing you want to avoid is the stench of backsliding. You absolutely, if your numbers start going down after being on an upward trajectory, which DeSantis's were before he started running, basically, the stench of losing or the stench of failure is the one thing that turns off donors and it turns off voters. If we think back to 2012, when we had that sort of carousel of candidates popping in and out in the Republican primary, what was helpful to a lot of them is getting these sugar highs. And the sugar highs were helped along by the fact that they had, not big baselines. So they could jump up really quickly, really easily. And that's what made it, pretty simple for them to get their names out there, sort of maybe in a Vivek type way. But with DeSantis, it's sort of the opposite problem here. And so that's going to make fundraising a really uphill battle. It's going to make convincing donors a really uphill battle. And it just, honestly, the fact of the matter is it looks like Republican voters are consolidating around Trump because he's been hit with all of these indictments. He might not be their favorite guy in the world, but they're consolidating around him now. And the DeSantis strategy to put all of the eggs in the Iowa basket is making a potential comeback even more difficult because he's still down 25 points in Iowa. And even if you won Iowa, if you're down that big nationally, you're going to make it that much harder in New Hampshire and South Carolina.
I mean, Eliana, these are terrible numbers, not just for DeSantis. I don't mean to pick on him, but for the rest of the GOP field. Anyone not named Trump who's running for president, these are terrible numbers. DeSantis has not been able to get anything going. Notwithstanding several relaunches, the skinnying of his campaign staff, trying to save money, the super rich super PAC that's backing him, trying to generate interest with the bus campaign in Iowa and the nonstop door knocking. They can't, the numbers persistently going in the wrong direction for him.
The Wall Street Journal poll contained a lot of really interesting information. The first piece of interesting information is that it was conducted in part by Trump's pollster, which I think we should keep in mind because that factors into the way questions are formulated. And it may be a little bit more favorable to Donald Trump than it otherwise would have been. But nonetheless, Trump, of course, it's obvious, remains in the commanding position to win this nomination right now. DeSantis, his position has collapsed, and Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy are right on his heels, which is not where he wanted to be. And the DeSantis campaign has been plagued by the series of leaks from his super PAC. You mentioned Jeff Rowe, the DeSantis consultant for running the super PAC by name. Consultants are supposed to exist in the background. Do you know any of the other consultants running the super PACs or the campaigns? Are they names in the news in the way that Jeff Rowe is? I think that's a bad sign for the DeSantis campaign. And then there's the content of what he said. He, on the eve of the first debate, told donors, That super PAC has already spent over $130 million. He told those donors, I need $50 million from you guys now. The good news is that we have the money. The bad news is that it's all in your pockets. So for $130 million plus the 50 he's asking for, that's $180 million. And they don't have a whole lot to show for it. Granted, DeSantis has been hit by an enormous amount of attack ads from Trump that the likes of Nikki Haley and particularly Vivek Ramaswamy have not been the subject of. But the second thing I would say was Jeff Rowe also said, all of the stories you've seen from Vivek Ramaswamy, they came from us. And it's just sort of a gross thing to say. And if I were DeSantis, it's not the type of thing that you want your guy out there making headlines for. You want to be the headline. You want to be making news. You want to be reaching voters. You don't want your consultant out there making headlines that way. And I think it's just a symptom of it's a symptom of the issues the campaign is having more broadly.
Right. Definitely reveals that DeSantis, that his team sees Ramaswamy as a serious threat, and they should, because Ramaswamy's numbers are going up and DeSantis's aren't. Just a little more color on the DeSantis problems in New Hampshire now. The latest poll, this is via the Messenger. Trump currently holds 47% support. Haley and Ron DeSantis are behind at 10% each. So they're tied for second place at 10%. As recently as June in New Hampshire, DeSantis had 37%. My God, what? I mean, I haven't been following the cases or the states, that closely to realize he had that big an implosion in the past, it's 3 months now. He's gone from nearly 40% to 10%, tied for second, and Trump is now at 47. This already today has got people saying it's over, Emily. I mean, there are a lot of people in Republican politics who believe it's over. And everything from this point to the actual voting that begins with Iowa in January is window dressing.
Yeah, that's also really interesting because my boss, Molly Hemingway, made that point on Special Report last night. And Mark Thiessen responded by saying, well, listen, the Trump consolidation is different in the earlier states. And it's true, his numbers are lower in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina than they are nationally. But that trend is going completely in Trump's direction. And, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, in fairness to them, they have not been slapped with 4 indictments. But because that's obviously a huge advantage for Donald Trump, but the direction that the numbers
just an amazing sentence that you just uttered. It's just like, right? Every once in a while, you got to stop and remind yourself that that's incredible. But keep going.
And in some ways enviable. Like the other candidates are like, hey, hit me with an indictment. Like we could have some fun with
I did
this
bad stuff.
The money. Right? Why are you paying attention to my bad stuff? Alleged bad stuff, we should say. But yes, it's almost enviable from the other candidates because the trend has been the opposite of what a lot of people wanted to see. And my understanding is that there's the frustration in DeSantis world is that there's maybe an insulation, that the candidate is sort of insulated from maybe fair criticisms and is listening to all of the wrong people because, about a month ago, we were talking about how the head of his campaign had been replaced. She was moved into another position, so not fired altogether, but he had been in the race for about 2 months, had burned through a ton of cash and was replacing the person at the top of his campaign a month later. And the cash problem is arguably worse. And the leadership problem is clearly still just as bad. So it's going in the wrong direction, not just numbers wise, but it's going in the wrong direction in terms of what the campaign looks like too. So it's not as though there are signs of hope on the horizon. If anything, it looks like things just can't be turned around right now.
Where did you learn about money? Budgeting, saving, investing, and spending. If you're like me, it certainly wasn't in school. My parents did the best they could, but now I would really like it if my children could be better at money matters than I was at their age, which is where Busy Kid comes in. Busy Kid is an interactive money management app for kids and teens to help them learn how to earn, save, invest, and spend money wisely. It gives them real-life experience and allows parents to still be a safety net with approvals and monitoring. The more kids earn, save, invest, and spend on the app, the more they build healthy financial routines to use as adults. Busy Kid is great for kids and teens 5 to 7 years old, and everyone gets a personalized debit card to learn how to shop and how to manage invisible money. BusyKid is offering a limited time special for our audience right now, 20% off a family subscription. So for less than $4 a month, this app and card can transform how your children think about and use money. To start, download BusyKid and enter the promo code MK to get 20% off. Again, download BusyKid, use the promo code MK for 20% off. There's even a 30-day guarantee. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.